sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Scott retired. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate Brian Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. It's the most overrated player. And there the Chicago Bears with a champion defense. And I'm sure dancing with the stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad.
You're now listening to Open Season with your host, Billy Allen.
Good evening, and welcome to Open Season. I'm your host, Billy Allen, sitting here with Frankie Bradica, as always. We've got a lot to talk about this week. Tua Tagovailoa got a concussion, and who's to blame? We're going to do the blame pie here. Tom Brady and Giselle, I guess things are on the rocks. Deebo Samuel criticized Jalen Ramsey after scoring a ridiculous touchdown on him last night. We'll talk about Deebo. They did a little bit of a survey on the GMs in the NBA, and, well, the Celtics didn't do so hot. You know, a couple weeks ago, we thought they were the number one team in the NBA. Seems like the Clippers have passed them, if you ask around the league. The Steelers made a change at quarterback. Mike Tomlin goes with the rookie, and the Kenny Pickett era has began. We start out, Frankie. The Eagles maintain their top spot, and obviously they have an incredible come-from-behind win against Jacksonville this weekend. A lot of people thought that they were going to do pretty well in that division this year, but I was particularly impressed with the way they came back after being down so much. They're 4-0, the only undefeated team in the league. This has me asking, are the Eagles legit contenders?
How good do you think their offensive line and defensive line are?
Pretty good.
I don't. If they are pretty good, they will win 10, 12 games. I think they're going to run into stagnant times on both sides of the ball because their big men don't win at the line of scrimmage enough. And an encouraging sign from this game that hasn't been true in the first couple games, they were able to run the ball very well, create very big holes. And if they can do that all season, they'll be fine because Jalen Hurts can't, have 10, 12 design runs every game and throw it over the top. There's going to need to be games where you can run the ball, bleed some clock, and play a different brand of football.
Mm-hmm. See, I just look at the Eagles so far. They've been second in yards per game, fourth in points scored. I just think that offense is kind of the way that, like we saw Buffalo last year, how many points they scored. I think you have to be able to score right now in the NFL, and the Eagles are doing a great job of moving the ball on offense.
They do not have Josh Allen.
You're afraid to say anything good about Jalen Hurts now after you doubted his ability. Is that what it is?
I doubted his NFL prospects, and I didn't think he was accurate enough. And still, if he wasn't throwing to two top 20 receivers in the league, I'm just not sure it would look this good.
Can the guy get some props? He's been throwing like 330 yards a game after throwing like 100 yards a game as a rookie. Would you not say he's made some pretty impressive progress along the way, Frankie?
Certainly.
Well, he's just kind of what you want out of a play. Like, you take him in the second round. Who knows? Maybe you start him for a year or two, but I feel like he's kind of proving that he's worth. Last year you could easily started to move on from him after a year or two, but they've believed, and he's kind of rewarding them. So
the second you invest in that guy and have to start cutting from the other parts of your roster, you will see exactly how limited he is. And I like the player. I'm just saying. Oh,
do you? Okay. All right, good. Now the Kansas City Chiefs are another top team right now. I might say that they're, one of my I just feel like Kansas City is just always in a great position with Mahomes and Reed. It just feels like Mahomes is always in a game, as Brady is and used to be with us. But the Chiefs are 3-1. I feel like they kind of just showed exactly how dangerous they could be. And Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't have the same weapons this year. Obviously, he still has Travis Kelce, but it hasn't mattered at all. He's slicing and dicing these defenses, and puts up 41 points against the Buccaneers. I mean, they certainly look like they've found something in Kansas City, and they really haven't even stumbled without Tyreek Hill. I mean, a lot of people thought it may take a few weeks to find that chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, they're not as good as they were 3 years ago when they had Tyreek Hill. They're certainly not as dangerous, but they are a new-look Kansas City team. This is a better representation of what they'll be in Patrick Mahomes' career because he was very blessed early on. He was on a rookie contract. That team had a wealth of talent. This team has some talent. I think they locked up the right guys, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Tyreek before trading him, drafted a running back, drafted Mecole Hardman, signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling, didn't break the bank. I just feel like they have a ton of weapons, a ton of fast guys, and they use them with Andy Reid's brain. Like, I think that's what it is. Patrick Mahomes is just – he's going to make mistakes, and he's you can fool him, but he's just the best quarterback in the league.
Mahomes has made the AFC title game every year that he's been in the NFL. Do you think they're a shoo-in to make it this year?
Yes.
I do too. I mean, how long is this going to happen? I just feel like it's basically a guarantee that the Chiefs are going to get there. Like,
yeah, if another team can overtake them, that's the only thing. Can another team build up a roster around a less good quarterback that's a significantly better roster? Can the Chargers build up a better roster and then have Justin Herbert who can maybe not match him stride for stride, but be 85, 90% of them? The Bills have a guy that can do it. The Packers have a guy that can do it. The Buccaneers have a guy that can do it in a single game.
Now, transitioning on a little bit, the Tua injury is definitely something that people are going to be watching moving forward. We were just talking about some of the top teams. Arguably, Jimmy was a top team until they faced that injury. That's going to hamper the team a little bit moving forward. But, after the concussion this week, a lot of people are wondering who's to blame. A lot of people, just getting the two head injuries like that you could honestly die getting two head injuries like that within a 5-day period. A lot of people putting blame on the Tua Tagovailoa situation. Who are you upset with in this whole issue, Frank?
I'm upset with, and you said it before the show, so sorry, but it's like the sports culture, right? It's Gene Upshaw cutting off, a body part is like cool, and that's fine, and you want to be rough and tumble and all those things. Everything Rex Ryan ever said in the press conference, and that's the culture. And like I said, like Tua, I'm sure lied. Mike McDaniels, I'm sure is naive. Ownership was far to play along. And the NFL doesn't really care. So, like, if it's a blame pie, you start with the NFL and work your way down because that's how accountability works.
Yeah, and I think Tua was in a tough position because a lot of people, I feel like, have looked at him as brittle over the past couple of years. And I think, he's probably saying, if I sit out, I could get passed over. I'm, finally 3-0 or something like that. I feel like, there's just pressure in a lot of areas that had everybody. And I've said this, but I just feel like in the NFL, the whole thing is to do whatever it takes to get guys back on the field, whether it's like shooting you up with a cortisone shot or whatever it takes. And that's kind of the culture. And, it's just, you feel for a guy like Tua. He's kind of in a lose-lose situation. Does he really listen to himself and sit out and mortgage his career a little bit? Or does he play through, what is probably an injury that he shouldn't have played through?
The decision needs to be taken out of his hands. I mean, you need to protect these guys from themselves. It shouldn't be on Tua. As soon as it's on Tua, the whole establishment has a massive problem with dereliction of duty. That's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, are any of those guys going to say that they don't want to play? Picture if we were in the NFL. I mean, would you ever not play? So
I think the NFL protocol is a lot of getting into that blue tent for concussions anyway and saying, how many of these 3 fingers am I holding up? You know what I mean? I think it's a lot of easy testing to make sure they can get right back out there.
Well, it's funny because, obviously, what was it? Edelman in the, in the 2016 Super Bowl, that was the one after he was concussed, right? And I'm pretty sure after the game, he had said, we moved the ball on the Rams or whatever. I mean, he was so concussed, he didn't even know who they were playing. And it's just funny how, when you win and when the outcome is okay, you don't really talk about it. I feel like this is almost getting talked about more because it's like, like a Miami situation. You're looking at them like, oh, they're stupid. Like you don't look at some of the things that have been overlooked for good teams to win. It's almost like this might be getting put under a bigger magnifying glass because it's Miami. Because I mean, look at the Patriots. They've definitely had guys playing through significant injuries on their ways through championships. Like I said, Edelman couldn't even really know who the opponent was in the post-game interview. That would not get you back on the field if you couldn't answer that question.
He got the wind knocked out of him, and it was a hip injury. Did you listen to what he said it?
No, in all honesty.
It was a hip injury, and he got the wind knocked out of him. That was the issue. No concussion here. Nothing to see here. That's what happened with us. Also, that is the Super Bowl, by the way. It is impossible for you to get a second concussion in 5 days unless you fall in the shower and hit your head on the faucet. Unless you're David Pasternak or Patrice Bergeron, by the way, who have a tendency to just fall in public, not playing hockey.
Yeah. Mark Savard had a lot of concussions in a short period, too.
That is playing hockey. Well, I guess football's like hockey. Yeah, no. These sports are not meant for people. They're car accidents.
Oh, my God, I know. Do you think this is going to cause them to make some changes at all? Like, do you see anything coming down the pike where they do anything? I mean, whether it's implement that rule, do you see them making any changes based off this? Or
not to sound bleak, but they'll make cosmetic changes. They'll make PR changes. But at the end of the day, any company that is independent enough to take on an operation this sized would need to be compensated in such a massive way. And you know who's got a lot of money dedicated to this cause? The NFL and its affiliates. So I just don't know that there's ever going to be an independent way to do it. Any place that already has the resources to take on an operation this size will never fully be independent, which I think is what we have right now. So it's tough.
I just want to say this too. When this news came, when this stuff happened with Tua, I knew that they were going to fire a doctor. Like, obviously, they're going to look at somebody and be like, he acted rogue. We were all following. Like, this was so predictable that they were going to, they definitely gave this guy a decent settlement, sent him out the door, but you're going to take the hit for this. But, I mean, are we expecting anybody else to get blamed in this situation by the organization?
No, the Pats have like a half a dozen guys who you'll never see again because they're sipping Mai Tai somewhere that we don't know. Like Matt Walsh, nobody's ever
like the deflator.
Huh?
Like the deflator?
Yeah. Matt Walsh, you'll never go to a Publix or a Stop and Shop and run into Matt Walsh. That guy's gone.
Somebody else who's gone right now is Dak Prescott. Apparently still can't grip a football well enough to play, and Cooper Rush is 3-0 in his absence. Obviously Dak Prescott's a starter getting paid a whole lot there. What do you do with that situation if you're Mike McCarthy? I mean, you're probably a babbling idiot if you're Mike McCarthy. I'm sure you'd make a better decision, but what would you do, Frank?
Look, here's the deal. I'm not going to say right now I'd stay with Cooper, but I'd say if we're being honest, doesn't the offense run better right now under Cooper? It just didn't look that good with Dak. And here's the thing. The reason why you didn't put him on IR is it's hubris from Jerry Jones. It's your thumb on your throwing hand. Long after the pain is tolerated and you'll have full range of motion, you still won't be able to grip the ball because it's your thumb. That was always going to take 4 or 5 weeks minimum. And if it took 8, that's not shocking. And I'll tell you what, if it lasts 8 weeks, Cooper will have that job.
Mm-hmm.
Because why are they know that they made a mistake with that contract. They know they had to do right by him. And they're begging a guy to take the job. Cooper's been good enough. He's been good enough. He's been better than 10, 12 other quarterbacks in this league. And they've got a good roster outside of him. Gallup's coming back.
Yeah. I wonder how people on the team feel. I mean, that's just a tough situation. I don't feel like Cooper Rush is a good quarterback. I think he's just getting lucky right now. What do you think of his prospects as an NFL quarterback?
I think Cooper Rush, Taylor Heineke, and Gardner Minshew are all grit guys who, if they're surrounded by a plethora of talent, they can win you 10, 12 games. You can upset somebody in the first round of the playoffs. I guess I'll throw 3 years ago Tannehill in there as well.
Oh, my God. What,
For
the year
17 games, he put up
32 touchdowns?
For 17 games, he put up Mahomes numbers. That's not who he is, but you had so much talent on that team and good coaching.
God, Mahomes numbers, really?
17 games they put up. Now, granted, that's over the course of 2 seasons, so I'm nitpicking my stats and lines of demarcation. But for any amount of time for him to put up that tier of quarterbacks numbers is playing outside of his boobs. And he did it for, 17 games.
Somebody that's been playing out of their boobs is Deebo Samuel. He's been absolutely incredible, like kind of single-handedly on that offense last night. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo throws what would have been a pick in a lot of cases, and you have Deebo Samuel catch it. Yeah, that could have been a pick.
He threw it in a location where it couldn't be a pick. He threw it in a place where only my guy at this athletic can get it, or it's out of bounds. He airmailed it on purpose. That was never going to be a pick, and you need to stop playing. That is an Italian god, and you are disrespected. That's really what this is about.
The king of Jimmy G apologists. It's just unbelievable.
The hatred towards him is equally irrational.
Look at his stats. How many guys could put up what he did last night?
I know how many guys haven't. We have this argument every week. I know how many guys haven't. You keep asking me how many guys could, and I keep telling you one guy is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand how you could be this.
Throws it in a perfect location, just like the Kittle pass. Zing, zing. Gets them both in there. Perfect locations. Couldn't be picked in either circumstance. Just excellent balls. Now continue with what you were saying after Jimmy made that excellent pass.
Yeah. Could have been picked. Should have been picked.
Could not have been picked.
And then takes it to the house on a play. I don't know how many guys in the NFL could take that ball to the house. You're going through the entire Rams defense. Then you're just running through Jalen Ramsey. I mean, Deebo Samuel is a dominant wide receiver and running back. And he's honestly, like route-wise and stuff like that, isn't even that great. I just feel like his ability is so top. I feel like he is honestly could be the most talented player in the league. And I just feel like, I don't know if other teams are going to try to do that. Like I'm trying to think of other guys that were like him. It's like Darren Sproles was kind of like him, right? No. But I mean, nowhere close. No, I mean, Brian Westbrook maybe, but Deebo Samuel is just on a different level. I mean, he's a top level receiver and able to do that at running back too.
So here's what I'll say about the running back thing. I don't know that any other team will make it happen. I think there's other guys that could do it. I think Justin Jefferson could do it. I think Jamar Chase could do it. And I think DK Metcalf could do it. But here's the thing on DK Metcalf. Lowest floor of any guy we're going to mention in this segment because he just doesn't have great hands, doesn't have great route running ability, but he also looks like a transformer. You get a guy that big, that strong, that fast. That guy can play tight end. That guy can play running back. That guy can block. That guy can play outside receiver. If he ever gets a better shiftiness to him or a better understanding of the game, that's a guy who can absolutely take that pass, and you could have thrown it even higher for DK Metcalf, and then he's got the speed to break and power to break that many tackles and take it down the sideline.
Dude, I just feel like that play was so heads. I mean, just the way he ran, I really don't know how many guys would house that ball. I don't think there's more than 5 guys that would take that thing to the house, really.
I just gave you 3 other ones. I feel pretty good.
No, that's. I mean, of course you did, but I feel like it's a low number. But those are some interesting guys you bring up that could run that offense. I'll never forget when Ronnie Brown against the Patriots. What did he account for? Like 4 touches. It's like he's running. Can you just defend? Like make him throw.
No, but, I mean, look, there's been several frustrating games. Like the Jets playoff game, the drive to nowhere, the Peyton Hillis game, the Wildcat game. Like even with the best coach, sometimes they see it a mile away, just like you do, but you just on this day can't stop it.
Yep. So moving on, we start the Kenny Pickett era in Pittsburgh. Something that I talked about should have been started to start the year, Frank. I can't understand why you would just want to give away 4 games to that idiot Trubisky. Guy couldn't even throw to George Pickens. I mean, look at Kenny Pickett comes in and completes, like over 100 yards to Pickens. So, you're just looking at the start of what it should have been an era to start and looking pretty good in his first game. But, what do you think about them making the switch now? It seems like you thought that Trubisky should have started the year.
This is the most Tomlin maneuver in the world. If you're going to play him at any point, it's after your bye. If you want to sit him all year, I get that. That's probably what I would have done. But if you're going to bring him in, you wait. You don't throw him in during a difficult spot in your schedule for a kid that's going to be raw. This is just a tough position. It is arguably the worst position to throw him in.
Mm-hmm.
Bad team, going nowhere, injured best defensive player, and restless fans who are desperate to see something good happen. It's a bad mixture. You should have, let your team lose more so that there's lower expectations, or have him sit all year so that you actually let him learn.
Yeah. Yeah, I just feel like when a guy is the guy, or I guess I should even say, that Trubisky is not the guy. So you got to figure out who is the guy on your team. Like, if Trubisky, number 25 quarterback in the NFL, no higher than that.
Billy,
their
offensive line is trash. And yes, right.
Okay. So, we got Nick Smith saying that he's from Pittsburgh. Tough, Frank. All right. And we got looks like Whitey from Queens has jumped on the line here as well. Whitey, I'm sure your ears were ringing with the talk of Pittsburgh. How do you feel about the start of the Kenny Pickett era? And do you feel like he should have been starting to start the season? Settle this debate between Frank and I.
Yeah, so he should have started this game, okay? He was embarrassing the first 2 games of the year. Embarrassing against the Patriots, embarrassing against the Browns. They played the Browns on Thursday Night Football. He should have gotten the start this week. He would have had an extended time to get first-team reps, work with the first team in practice. He was just basically thrown into the fire, and he did very well for that case. He completely invigorated the stadium. It was night and day from when he came in. The entire stadium lit up. The entire team lit up. The offense lit up. But it was all sour at the end of the game because the defense just crapped the bed, lost the goddamn Jets that they would have beat if he started the game in the first place. And now we have a schedule where we're going to have 4 losses. Now we're going to be 1-7. So, if they started the game, they would have won. They'd be 2-2. Now they're 1-3. So it's brutal. It's brutal stuff. He should have started this week.
Frank, do you have anything to say to that?
He did very well for being thrown into the fire.
Yeah.
And he reinvigorated the offense.
Exactly.
And he did all that while having 4 turnovers.
He did have 4 turnovers.
He's gonna.
I think he didn't have 4. What did he throw? 3 picks?
3 picks and a fumble.
He didn't lose a fumble. No, he didn't lose a fumble. He had 3 picks. The first 2 were drops by the receivers that went right into DB's hands. The third pick was a Hail Mary, so I don't even put those picks against him. The one pick where he kind of threw it into heavy coverage and Freiermuth just dropped the ball, I think that wasn't a good decision, but all in likelihood, the tight end usually comes up with that play, and he'll learn from that. And like I said, he was thrown into the fire. He did not have a week of practice.
Yeah.
With the first team reps. And he did really well. He was 10 of 13. The only 3 incompletions he had were drops by the receiver the third one was a Hail Mary, but the other 2 were drops by the receiver. So the ball literally did not touch the ground after he threw it.
Yeah.
He's completely accurate. He scrambled for a touchdown. Do you realize he's the only quarterback ever to have 2 rushing touchdowns in his first start?
Yeah, and I feel like Pickett, from this entire process has been really, really accurate. I watched a few preseason games actually, and not like you can count those as a whole lot, but it seems like he is right on the money. And I think the big thing for him that helped reinvigorate the offense is literally his yards per attempt were double what Trubisky. Trubisky was just
Exactly.
not throwing the ball down the field at all. I mean, Pickens was not getting anything, and it seemed like Kenny was smart enough to get the ball to him and open things up a little bit more.
Exactly. Like literally, Trubisky did not push the ball downfield. He has checkdowns and he throws to like the sidelines. He did not stretch the field. He was just painful to watch. Like he would stand in the pocket and without even being pressured, just start running around and throwing checkdowns and stuff. It was awful. He should not have seen 3 full games, and he did see 3 full games. So the fact that he started the 4th game is inexcusable. So now Tomlin's going to have his first losing season because of this decision. We have the Bills next week. We got the Buccaneers the week after that. The Dolphins the week after that. I assume Tua will be playing by then. Then we got the Eagles. So that's 1-7.
Oh,
so you know what? We have a soft schedule like once we hit November, so we can probably start picking up some wins. But we're obviously not going to make the playoffs now. My only hope is that we can finally have a good draft pick to draft an offensive lineman because our offensive linemen are trash right now.
I like you bringing up that point, Whitey. I am happy that Tomlin will no longer be able to have that feather in his cap. Like I feel like people from Pittsburgh are always like, Tomlin has never had a losing season. He's been 8-8 a million times, but never lose. It's like, who cares, right? But I am kind of happy about that. Frank, it looks like you want to say something.
Well, they were going to be, somewhere between 7 and 9 wins if Kenny had started all year. But you could have just guaranteed a bad draft pick. To throw him in at this time in the schedule makes no sense. As I said earlier, it's the biggest Tomlin decision ever. The most Tomlin decision ever. And I agree with you about the offensive line. This kid's going to get beaten up. I would have let him sit. Look, he's going to do a lot of what Josh Allen did his rookie year. Make a lot of exciting plays. He's going to have a lot of games where he's, either throwing picks, turning it over, or having a low completion percentage. He's going to look really good at times. He's talented. But he's going by an offensive line at a tough part of the schedule. Just go and get the better draft pick. Why even go for those 5 extra games when you're not going to make the playoffs anyway, and you're going to get him beat up behind a bad offensive line?
Because Trubisky sucks, right? So, you might as well just have Kenny Pickett. There's no value to Pickett sitting on the sidelines. He's had 4 years of college in that stadium. He's the oldest rookie quarterback I've ever seen. If anyone's suited to immediately get game reps, there's no value on him sitting on the sideline while Trubisky stinks the joint. Even if we play with him, we'll probably still be losing these games and still getting a good draft pick, but at least our quarterback's actually seeing live action.
The value for the franchise. The values for the franchise, not the player. The values for the franchise and guaranteeing that he does not get hurt during a useless season and guaranteeing that he gets more spectator time before you throw a raw quarterback prospect into the fire.
Yeah, Frank, but Whitey brings up a good point where you want to get him some seasoning at some point. I mean, how long do you want to wait to go with the guy that is the guy?
10 games. And that was when there were 16-game seasons. So maybe 12 games now that there's 17.
Who's the guy at the Titans drafted? Malik, what's his last name?
Willis.
Yeah, it makes sense for him to sit because he's a raw prospect. And they have Tannehill who's steering the ship. That makes sense. Right now, Trubisky is not steering anything. He's a blind freaking sailor. He sucks. So might as well let Kenny Pickett, who's the most experienced rookie quarterback ever, to just play, let him learn. There's no value to him sitting on the sidelines. We're probably still going to lose. I don't think he's going to get beat up because he still can move. He's not a statue in the pocket. He can easily escape from pressure. So I just think he should have started this game. That's just my opinion. But I think, this is Tomlin's first losing season and whatever. I know that has some cachet. He's never had a losing record. Didn't won a playoff game in 5 years. So it's about time we actually have a franchise quarterback who's young, and let him be more experienced his second year than he would if he's been sitting for half the season.
Whitey, I agree with you. I mean, if he's the guy, why wait? Is my thought. You're wrong, Frank. Wrong. No.
Where Frank is right though is Jimmy G.
Oh God, not you too.
Hey, he's a Paisan who wins every time he plays. You have to you just watch the 49ers offense. He's not Patrick Mahomes, but the offense, it runs. It just runs smoothly when he's under center. Like it's a smooth operation. It hums. The offense hums when he's behind center. You don't see that with any other quarterbacks that ever played for the 49ers under Shanahan.
Yeah, Whitey, who's the best other quarterback that played there under Shanahan?
I don't even know. Like
that's my point. Get some
Trey Lance. He was supposed to be the next second coming, and he's stuck.
Yeah, but they decided to purposely injure him on a RPO on freaking second and long. So
hey, I'd be fully on board with Jimmy G playing on the Steelers this year and having Pickett start or sit, but not Mitch Trubisky.
See, I just feel like that's a waste too. I mean,
that makes less sense than starting Trubisky all year or sitting him all year. Why win 10 games and get a bad draft pick? The idea, like I said, have him sit the majority of the season and learn, don't get hit a lot, get a soft spot in your schedule, and then move on, or start him all year, which I don't agree with, but at least makes sense. To start him right now at the hardest part of your schedule doesn't make any sense.
Well, the whole point is you look at Patrick Mahomes, he sat a full year. Look at Rodgers, he sat because they had competent quarterbacks to learn from. So you're not like – you're still competitive and they're still learning. But to lose and not be playing your rookie quarterback makes the least sense. If you're going to lose, you might as well have your rookie quarterback get experience.
Ensure the good draft pick, the better draft pick.
All right. Well, we can fight about that one later. Let's move on. I mean, Nick's just going to bully us. I mean, we got to listen to our fans. He's going to bully us into talking about this Giants game. Saquon continues his hot start, 146 yards. 94 of those after contact. So, I mean, he's been really good this year. It looks like, he's back to his rookie form and Dexter Lawrence has just been a force to be reckoned with. What do you guys think? I mean, it's a lowly opponent in the Bears, but, are you taking the Giants seriously?
Yeah, by the way, do you guys judges broke the record? And I was wasting my time talking to you two schlubs.
Well, he broke up before you came on.
To hang up to go, do anything,
He broke up before you came on.
Yeah, I didn't even know we were playing, honestly, because I didn't realize we had a doubleheader. I watched the game earlier today. But basically, I was watching you guys' show, completely unaware that the Yankees were even playing. But I digress. Anyway, the Giants, no, Daniel Jones is not the answer. Like, he has probably a high ankle sprain, and the only way he's ever good is when he can run. So he's probably not playing this week. They don't have Tyrod Taylor, who got a concussion, so they're going to lose this week. But even high ankle sprains linger for how long does it take for a player to come back from a high ankle sprain? 5
Depends
weeks.
on their position.
Well, I don't know. We'll have to ask Mac Jones. He's got to get that. It sounds like he's not going to get that surgery, but he's dealing with the high ankle sprain right now. Pat's trying to cover that one up. But yeah, I mean, do we have anything else to say on the Giants?
That defense can be serious. They have a good defensive line, even when Leonard Williams is out. Adoree Jackson's good. They've got a pretty good defense. They're like a playmaker away, and a good edge rusher away from being dominant. But if you compare that, or if you can pair that with Saquon Barkley, their offensive line is better. If you add, third and fourth round interior line help, and you can get an edge rusher in the first round, now you're cooking with gas. Draft a quarterback in the fourth round, do what you have to do, and then build around a rookie contract. Or go all out for an Aaron Rodgers or something like that, because they do have cap room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love Saquon Barkley, but you can tell when you watch the Giants that they're clearly not trusting the quarterback. Like, they're clearly just the way the game script is. Like, you can tell he's just not an effective passer, and he doesn't whenever he gets pressured, he just runs around without looking downfield. Like, he just runs around to try and get out of the scrum, and then it's too late. I don't know, he just doesn't have it as a passer, so they're clearly going to move on from him.
I was never a huge fan. I was shocked he was drafted 6th overall. Still, I feel like that was shocking.
He looked nasty that Buccaneers game 3 years ago. He looked nasty, and then he just fumbled 1,000 times.
Yeah, and Joe got a hold of him. And
Yeah.
there were those stats, like his first year, he was pretty good. And then Joe Judge started there, and he's kind of been not so good since then. To connect the dots on Joe Judge, the Green Bay Packers beat the Patriots this weekend, 27-24. But the Patriots played, about as good as they could, especially with a third string quarterback. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson ran all over the place, combined for 152 yards on 32 carries. A lot of it was just inside runs, like right up the middle for big gain. But the Patriots playing really well with Bailey Zappi, and I honestly feel like the offense looked more competent than it did at any point this season with Mac Jones for whatever the reason. I don't know how long Mac Jones is out, but I want to see some more. I want to see Bailey Zappi again. My hope is that Brian Hoyer is out this weekend and we get to see more Bailey Zappi. Frank, what did you think about the Bailey Zappi experience this weekend and kind of how poised he was for his first game under center?
What I think is the best position far and away in sports is the backup quarterback. Nobody has a longer leash and higher expectations than the backup quarterback. I don't really like Mac Jones. I do not desire any more Bailey Zappi. This is not Kurt Warner. This is not a guy who's going from his rural, hard, blue-collar routes and becoming a future Patriot starter for a long time. I just don't see it. He was poised, yes. The Patriots also were not that good. The Packers have a tendency to play down to their competition always, and make no mistake about it, we are down competition.
They certainly are, but would you not say that Bailey Zappi has the best arm on the team?
No.
You would not? You don't think he has a better arm than Mac?
I think he probably has the same arm as Mac. I think Hoyer has the best arm.
See, I honestly feel like I feel like Zappi has the strongest arm on the team. I don't know. Look, I'm not saying anything like along the lines of him being a Kurt Warner, but the guy threw for like 6,000 yards, like 50. He set all kinds of records. Now he's like 6'1" or something like that, and 220. He's kind of like short and stocky, not really what you want your quarterback to be, but it's that typical Belichick guy where nobody was high on him. They take him in the fourth round. Everybody's kind of questioning him, but not saying he's going to have a crazy good future, but I want to see. You don't think that the offense looked better with him than it did with Mac?
I think we just crapped on Daniel Jones, who's better than all three quarterbacks we just mentioned. That's what I think. And for the record, I don't think we were wrong to crap on Jones. I think we're wrong to want any of the Patriots quarterbacks for any other coach besides Bill and his vanilla offense. And you said whatever the reason the offense looked better, it's because we took away players' intuition and audibles. We said, here's the play, go run it. We ran different personnel. We blocked a lot. We ran a lot. We made it very, very vanilla. That was a preseason offense once he got in there. He better look good.
Did they not do that in the first few games, though, Frank? They ran they did not do any like audibles the first few games. They ran a very simplistic offense
they did
very plotting offense the first couple games.
But that's because they're slow. They were trying to run swing guards out and reach the perimeter. They were trying to do a zone blocking scheme and get to the outside and seeing how that worked for the first time in Bill's career. That's what they were trying.
In this game, they're just like, screw it, up the middle.
It just wasn't working. They have Trent Brown, who was bad for the first 2 weeks and is now back to being a man mountain. And you put Cole Strange is good 50% of the time. And they put in Marcus Cannon, who's a much better run blocker than pass blocker. So when you have those three guys all playing well with David Andrews, you're going to be able to run the ball, and that's all we did. I don't need more Zappi. I don't need more Jones either, but to take him or leave him.
Who would you rather see for, say somebody was going to play this week? Like, would you rather see Mac back in there, or would you rather see Zappi?
I'd rather see Cam Newton so I can draft a quarterback first overall.
Oh, gosh.
I'd rather see somebody with no chance of winning. Go back and get me Dan Campbell. Go back and get me Josh Freeman. Get me somebody who's going to lose every game.
Belichick would take him back. He talked more glowingly than he did about Cam Newton after a 3-interception start than he ever did about Tom Brady.
I want to see Jacoby Brissett. That's who I want. I want them to trade a 6th-round pick for Jacoby Brissett, and I want him to make us a fun little team because I think we'd win the same amount of games, which is 5, which is what I said. And, at least we were guaranteed a pick.
Yeah, I don't want it. I don't want Brissett. But
yeah, I didn't really watch much of that game, but I can tell you that Zappe is not the long-term answer.
do you think Mac Jones is?
Could be. You know what's crazy? Like as a Steelers fan, we're kind of in the same predicament. Like we're losing this year, and then next year there's a ton of QB talent, but we're not going to draft them because we just spent our first round pick on a quarterback. So it's like, what do we do? If Mac Jones is not the answer, but you guys keep winning, you're not going to get any of these studs.
I would draft one this
year. I would
year.
go back in the draft. I'd go back into the draft.
First round this year. You need a guy at that position.
Dude, that's what I would do. I honestly can't understand why teams say you don't have your quarterback that you know of the future. Why would you not be drafting 2-3 quarterbacks a year or something until you get that? Like, I feel like what the Redskins did years ago when they were the Redskins, when they drafted Kirk Cousins as 3. I mean, it's like, why would you? It's the most important position by miles in the NFL. Why would you not be doing everything it takes to get an asset there if you don't have that guy? It's like nothing matters if you don't have the quarterback, basically.
You should, but they drafted Kirk Cousins in the 4th round. Like for either of our teams to draft.
3rd round.
Was it 3rd? I thought it was 4th. But either way, like
he was 3rd, but yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, like if you're either of our teams, like not drafting support in the first few rounds for this quarterback you're basically sabotaging that quarterback. So like we're not all like these 4 studs next year that they're going to be taken in the first round. Like neither of our teams should draft any of these guys in the first round. We should be taking linemen. We should be taking playmakers.
Why? So my team can be just good enough to not get a high enough pick to get a better quarterback a couple years from now? No. You get the quarterback when you're bad, and then you build around that person with a rookie contract. Do you know how many bad expiring contracts we're going to have in just 2 years? So you're talking about having 3 years if you pick up their 5th-year option of having low-income quarterback and being able to surround him with a bunch of money because Jonnu Smith gone, Henry gone, all these guys you wasted money on Owl are gone.
Well, and Whitey, it sounds like you're kind of talking about building around like a Jimmy Garoppolo type. And I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is like he's like the only guy that wins with like that many. I feel got to get the Peyton Manning around.
Yeah, I think there's value to taking flyers on quarterbacks like later on. But if you draft, like both of our teams drafted our quarterbacks in the first round.
But so ours isn't the guy. And we know that. But
if he's not the guy after the 2nd year, then that's a problem. That's why, like, immediately you have to draft linemen and playmakers to make sure that this guy is not the guy. Because right now, Mac Jones does not have playmakers. Kenny Pickett does. So Kenny Pickett, he doesn't have a line. So like, you have to figure out if your quarterback is the guy within 2 years. And within those 2 years, that's when you take flyers, late round quarterbacks.
No.
Because you can't have
that's how teams do it. That's not how they should do it.
Look at Justin Fields, for example. They took which basically like the NBA equivalent of a lottery pick on Justin Fields, but he has nothing around him. So right now is when they should be surrounding talent around him to confirm if he's a guy or not, right?
I think that Fields looks overmatched in the NFL. I think you have to move on from him.
They have
he's got nothing
because they ruined him. That franchise is a killer for quarterbacks, but really all positions. They're wasting Roquan Smith's career. But very few quarterbacks are immune. Like Peyton Manning was going to make any team good, but Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, Tom Brady, those are the only people I can think of that are just the same amount of good wherever they go, no matter what's around them. Everybody else is going to suffer. But if I'm the NFL, yes, you want to surround them, but if I have a rookie quarterback, I need my owner to be willing to spend money. I'm going to keep spending draft capital on this position until I'm sure I've got the guy. Because you say in his 2nd year, as fans, that's only so much of a sample size. They see this man every day in practice. They know by now. They've seen him for 400, 500 days. They know by now.
Can we all agree though that Hurts on the Eagles, like that's the correct equation? That's exactly what they do. Like they weren't completely sold on him, but then they put AJ Brown over there, and now he's killing it. So like this is what you got to do. You got to surround these rookies with talent, and if they thrive with that talent, then you know they have the guy. If you throw a rookie quarterback out there with no talent, he's going to fail all the time.
They took a chance on him being the guy, though. They didn't know that he was the guy or not. Like, I don't know.
If they drafted a quarterback, I wouldn't have been upset with them. You know what I mean? And they did trade for a quarterback. They did bring in Minshew before they thought he was the guy. They every year until this year, they had a competition. They were never sold on him. They brought in more weapons, yes, but they didn't draft more necessary weapons. They traded for AJ Brown. That is my point. You trade for like the Dolphins did. You sign players. You do not spend more draft capital, or you do not risk spending more draft capital at the quarterback position. That's what teams always have done. You can pay guys. You can trade for guys. You keep drafting quarterbacks until you know one's the guy. And for the record, Josh Allen, there were serious questions after his first year if he was the guy, but he had enough wow plays. He hurled the defender. He had a couple 10-yard rushes. He, had a 60-yard pass touchdown while throwing, 50 completion percentage. So they weren't sure he was the guy, but he had wow plays. Jalen Hurts the same kind of way. Mac Jones has none of those things.
Yeah, I'm actually total in agreement with you there. Like, the fact that the Bills brought in, what's his name?
Stephon
Diggs. They brought in Stephon Diggs, and he took it to the next level. With Hurts, they brought in AJ Brown. He took it to the next level. Tua, they brought in Cheetah, took it to the next level. So, and these were not draft picks. So I'm actually in agreement. If you could bring in these playmakers, like free agents or trades, that is what you got to do.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds obvious too. Like, that this team needed to put options around Mac Jones, and these guys last year, their offense was like 30th in separation or whatever that they get. I mean, they have all these receivers that can't separate. It's, Devontae Parker. Then you have Smith, who's just been terrible since that first game last year where he bobbled a few balls. It's like he's completely mentally been taken out of it. You got the other tight end. He's blocking on every time. I mean, what's the tight end's name? Hunter Henry. He had 9 touchdowns last year, but he can hardly even take his hand out of the dirt this season. They're pretty much using him to block every play. So I feel like it's obvious that Mac Jones does not have that top level, and it is tougher to evaluate him without I just feel like when you're the Patriots, how do you let him go into the year with no top like this?
You said we were almost last in separation. Can you tell me who was first on our roster in gaining said separation last year?
Oh God, I don't even know, to be honest.
It was Kendrick Bourne. So if you're still struggling to get separation, wouldn't you at least have that guy on the field? I'm enjoying us losing so much because it's not like we couldn't be pulling out some of these games. Is that even last game, we're waiting for Aaron Rodgers to lose the game. At no point do we turn on the attack mode. We are such arrogant pricks, even while being bad. This is fascinating to watch. It's like the Roman Empire falling.
They had a stat for punts over the last 20 years. Apparently this punt for the Patriots, it was at the 55 or something. It was at the 45 or something. They call it the second most cowardly punt of the last 20 years based on statistics, basically. That made no sense. And I totally agree. You're waiting on Aaron Rodgers to make a mistake. You have to pounce. When they got up 24-17, that's when they should have been trying to go for it. And it's you've got house money. You got Bailey Zappi in the game. Step on their throats. I totally agree with you. The way they got so conservative, I was saying that to a few people. I feel like they just got super conservative at the end of that game. And it was obviously you don't want to let this guy air it out on his first start, but you've got to try to push the ball in some, you're just giving the ball back to that punt made no sense. Just handing the ball back to Aaron Rodgers for another attempt.
It's also the only game that he's had with no film on him. So if you're ever going to sling it out with a guy that doesn't have a great arm, it's probably the game where nobody knows what he can do.
Yeah, yeah. Now, before we, actually, with the time left on the clock, let's go on to basketball. I was gonna maybe talk about the Broncos finally. The Raiders got their first win of the season over them and all that, but let's just move on to the Tyler Herro contract. Tyler Herro today gets a 4-year, $130 million extension, which seems pretty rich because I don't see him as a top 3 player on a championship team, but I don't think you necessarily want to let him go. I think he's probably like your 4th best player on a championship team. Not like that's an enormous difference, but this kind of reminds me of almost like a Chandler Parsons type contract or something like that. I like Harrow, but I feel like with the way that they've signed Duncan Robinson, I just wonder. I feel like this takes out your ability to really get that max player that we would assume. What do you guys think about the signing on?
I think. So here's what I think. I think I'm going to defend Marcus Smart for a second. Is Tyler Herro twice as good as Marcus Smart?
Offensively, yes.
No. Overall, as a player, is Tyler Herro twice as good as Marcus Smart?
As bad as I want to say yes, I can't say that he's twice as good. No.
He's getting paid more than twice the amount of money.
Yeah.
He got $10 million more than RJ Barrett got. What do you think about that?
I think he's better right now. RJ Barrett's got clearly the higher ceiling. But I think Tyler Herro right now is more complete and just better than RJ Barrett. I wish that wasn't the case, but I think it is.
So
right
he's a better shooter. He's a little more polished offensively from shooting. Mm-hmm. But RJ Barrett's big, strong. He can get to the rack at will, and he's a much better defender. Tyler Herro cannot defend. RJ Barrett, he's going to be facing off against the top playmaker of every team they play against. They're going to be having him on Zion, on Giannis, on everybody.
They should not do that. That will not go well. He will end up in foul trouble if Zion is healthy and in shape. RJ Barrett cannot hold that man.
Here's what I'd say. I feel like RJ Barrett is probably like the player that you'd rather have like moving forward. But at this point, Tyler Herro has more earned the contract than RJ. Is that?
No, here's why. The answer to your question is yes. But when you sign a guy for 4 years at 130, you better not be paying him for how good he is right now. You better be paying him for how good he's going to be every single year. You're paying him $33 million.
And how much better can Harrow get, honestly? I mean, do we not feel like he's pretty close to his ceiling?
Can he beat JJ Redick defensively? He was able to get a lot bigger in the middle part of his career while still maintaining his skill offensively. So he was able to be serviceable on his career for, the mid to late stages of his career, that Clippers run. He wasn't a liability on defense, but he was a legit 3-point scorer, 16 points a game, I think, for that Lob City team. If he can be that, he's already more athletic than JJ Redick. So if he can combine those two things, if he can put on weight and still be good, he's got some way to go. But it's far less likely he reaches his ceiling than RJ Barrett. I like RJ Barrett. He just hasn't got to where he needs to be yet. Let's not fool ourselves.
Yeah, and I have tremendous faith in RJ Barrett. I mean, we wouldn't even – well, I can't even say that because reports say that we were willing to part with him to get Donovan Mitchell. But as I digress, basically, Herro is just a liability on defense. He's scrawny, he's skinny. He's got to put on weight because he's just a turnstile on defense. So, but his offensive game, he's a stud on offense. He's an assassin. That kid can hit, he can get buckets at will. So I love his offensive game. He's far better than Redick's offensive game. Redick was basically just a 3-point shooter. This kid's got dribble. He can create his own shot basically, which Redick couldn't do. So
I will say this: I went to a Celtics game against the Heat this year, and it did feel like Harrow was by far the best offensive player on the Heat. I know that Jimmy Butler can score, but just offly the things that. I mean, it just felt like Harrow got a lot of. Go ahead. What do you put in your? I love Jimmy Butler. This is no slight against Jimmy Butler. It's just saying it felt like Harrow was the best offensive option that they have, basically.
Jamal Crawford was the best offensive player on nearly every team he was ever on. You do not pay Jamal Crawford $33 million a year.
I agree with that. So the NBA GMs, there was a poll done of the NBA GMs. They picked the Bucks to win the 2023 title. They picked Luka Doncic for MVP. Probably two things that I would tend to agree with. The Milwaukee Bucks were at 43% of the vote, while the Golden State Warriors were second at 25%. The Clippers were third at 21%, and then the Celtics were fourth at 20%. Feels like a month ago, everybody was all over the Celtics. Are you guys surprised to see them ranked as the fourth best team in the balloting? Because I'll say that I was. To see them behind the Clippers was surprising for me.
Why do you take this?
I was surprised that like this just came out now, but like before this whole saga with your head coach, like I would have had them probably third or fourth. But we have to see how that plays out because that's just kind of like a circus right now. But we have to see. I mean, do you guys know anything about the interim head coach? Is apparently he's tight with Tatum. Is that the case?
I like this guy a lot. But also that's a very Boston mentality and a very modern sports fan. I'm surprised that they're fourth. There's 3 teams ranked above them. That shouldn't be shocking because even if you expect them to be first, 3 is not even out of the top 5.
Everybody in the NBA, here's the point. Everybody thought that they were the number one team a month ago. That's what Vegas had them ranked as one. So to go from 1 to 4 is pretty palpable, is it not? Or
I just think it's very react to the moment.
You don't think I mean, you're not surprised to say that they're 4? I mean, it's basically, here's my thing too. It's like if Tatum is the guy, then they really should not take much of a hit without Ime Udoka. Now, I think Ime Udoka is a good coach and helped get them in the direction that they needed to be. But if you think Tatum is the quote unquote that guy or a stud, then they should be just as good.
I agree. And here's the thing. This is the one league where that coach shouldn't matter. This is the one thing where this type of scandal shouldn't matter at all, like ever in the NBA. If it matters, it's just a further indictment and validation that these two are not the guys in the 2Js. If they can't stave off what isn't all that big a distraction in a sport where your fans do not care. The large majority of the NBA fans could not care less. We know what he did. We know who he did it to. We're disappointed in the brother. Let's move on because it's already happened. The players should not care about this at all. This is not the NFL. This is 12 guys. You only play 5 at once, and at any given time, you have 2 or 3 of the best 10 on the court.
They did an interesting question that I thought was pretty good. They basically said if you were to start a franchise today and could sign any player in the NBA, who would it be? Antetokounmpo got 55%. Doncic got 45%. Is there any different way that you would lean on that, Frank? You got one player to start. Who are you taking?
I think Donovan. No, I'm just kidding. No, realistically, I think the answer is probably Giannis. I want to say Luka very, very badly. He's got the much higher ceiling. He's got a lot longer to go than Giannis does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd take Giannis. Because Giannis isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, Giannis is a bulldog. He's alpha mentality. Like he's got that Kobe gene. Like he doesn't care about his endorsements and all that. He plays in Milwaukee. Like he's all about basketball. Like I love Luka, but Luka is a liability on defense, whereas Giannis is not. And I think you can see where my theme is going. Like when you have an offensive stud that can't play defense, that doesn't really translate to winning titles. Giannis already proved that he can win a title without really superstars with him. You know what I mean? Middleton's a superstar. They won the title. So you got to give it to him.
I think John Zion deserve honorable mention here. Those are the only other 2 I'd even consider.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be boring too, but I just feel like Giannis is the ideal superstar. I mean, I would just agree with like pretty much everything White said. I mean, like he only cares about basketball. I mean, like he's willing to die on the court. I mean, like he doesn't talk a lot of I mean, he is just like the perfect. And then physically, he's got everything you could want. Yeah, I just feel like there's really no, and he seriously still gets better to some degree pretty much each year. I mean, he is basically the MVP like every year. I mean, it's kind of like a LeBron situation where for the last 5 years, you could easily say that Giannis could be MVP every year.
Yeah, and we can't say there's no injury concerns with him either. Like he is peak male, just jacked out of his mind. Like he has no injury history. Luka is a little tubby, like he kind of fluctuates. He's kind of like James Harden. Like he's just not like physically the same specimen that Giannis is.
Oh no, you're making Frank shake his head.
Like Paul Pierce. To call him James Harden is a shameful, disrespectful thing to say. There are Antoine Walker even. And don't call him James Harden. James Harden is like the laziest thing we've ever seen on a basketball court.
Yeah, I'm just talking about like, more recently, he's probably more close to Paul Pierce because he's taller than Harden, but you know where I'm going with that.
I'm not as offended as Frank was, Whitey. Well, hey, Whitey, thanks for joining us. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. We will see you next week, same time, same place, and take care.